Have you ever wondered how much money you would be spending in the span of 4 years here in university? Now, if you're not sure, don't worry because I have the stats. We will roughly need a total of 450,000 ringgit, and that is just the bare minimum. So on average, we will need about 500,000 ringgit, or maybe even more, to get that piece of paper that we all call degree. Now, to some of you, this might sound totally fine. You might think, well, I'm rich and I could afford it. But that is not the question we are asking here today. The question is, why? Why is this degree worth your time, money, and effort? Now, the general premise is that getting a degree will land you a six-figure job right off the bat. Or you might think that you could pocket a job at Google or Facebook. You might also think that everyone around you is getting a degree, so you want to jump in the bandwagon. Is it because you want to feel included? Or is it because you want to follow the norm? Or was it because you were pressurized by your parents because they thought that getting a degree was absolutely necessary? On the other hand, you might actually be genuinely interested in the course that you are studying. Now, based on the general idea that our society has, the probability of you getting a job after graduating is often overestimated. Getting a job depends on factors other than just your degree, and one of them is the labor market, which is simply just a supply and demand of labor. So according to data from the globaleconomy.com, the percentage of Malaysian population with a degree in the year 2002 was 16.6%. In the year 2010, that number went up to 24.1%. Fast forward to 2018, that number is at 45%. From this data, you can see that the percentage of Malaysian population with a degree is increasing at an exponential rate. Another analysis that I personally find interesting is from the Department of Statistics Malaysia. In the year 2020, the year where the whole country went into lockdown, the year where many lost their jobs, and the year where the whole country's GDP dropped by 30 billion US dollars in value, the number of fresh graduates actually increased by 5.36 million, which is an increase by 4.4% from the year 2019. Now, you might think that's a good thing, right? More educated people, healthier competition, better economy. Now, it may surprise you that that is not necessarily the case. Coming back to the labor market, the percentage of unemployed graduates in the year 2020 spiked to 4.4%. Now, it's quite obvious based on the simple law of supply and demand. The supply of fresh graduates was greater than what the labor market demanded for that year. But that aside, just knowing the fact that almost half of the Malaysian population today have a degree, and knowing that that number is not slowing down anytime soon, you must ask yourself this. What is it that makes you so special? Why do you think you deserve a job in that particular company and in that specific position when there are literally hundreds or nearly thousands of people waiting in the same line? Or perhaps you are not someone that is interested like other students in a, let's say, in a job with a six-figure salary, or in a company that is listed on the NASDAQ, for example. And that brings me to my next point. Students who have always been genuinely interested in the course that they're currently in. However, the distressing aspect of this situation is that many students find their dreams and imaginations crushed after getting into university. For example, you may be particularly or extremely passionate in learning, but your lecturers are not passionate in teaching. You may have thought that university is a place where you can find students that are passionate in their subject, a place full of people that you can have an interesting discussion with, a melting pot of ideas. But instead, now all you find is people that are just here to party and not the slightest bit interested in their cause. Or on the other hand, you might have always been intrigued about living together with fascinating people in a shared accommodation. But now all you're dealing with housemates or roommates that you just don't get along with. And now you've come to a realization that learning in university is not what everyone said it would be. So what now? But university is more than just learning. University life is an experience in itself. Perhaps you're not someone that is extremely passionate in learning, but you've always wanted to experience life in university. In March 2020, schools, colleges, and universities were all shut down. Students were not able to learn face-to-face, and they were not able to use any of the campus facilities provided to them, but they were still required to pay full amount for tuition fees. They were stripped of the privilege of making new friends and meeting new people. They were not able to join clubs or societies. They were not able to interact with their lecturers face to face, but they were still required to pay full amount. So what is the difference between going to university and learning online through Coursera or edX that actually works with many universities to provide the course that you need? You can even get your master's through these platforms. So what is the need for students to pay double the amount to go to university today? Well, maybe we are propagandized into going into university. And that brings me to my next point. You feel like university is only worth it because everyone else is doing so as well. You feel like a degree is worth it because everyone else is taking a similar route. In simple terms, social influence, similar to how you're more likely to develop the habit of smoking or drinking when your circle of friends do so as well. Now, or you, on the other hand, you might be directly pressurized by your family or your parents because they thought getting a degree was absolutely necessary. And to be honest, I would not blame them for it. Well, why? Because according to the educational statistics of Malaysia, back in the 1970s, back in the time of our parents, the percentage of Malaysian population that enrolled into university was 1%. That's right. 1% of the Malaysian population actually got into university in the 1970s. And also I had to do a little digging in the deep and dark depths of Google to get this information also. But coming back, yeah, not many people had a degree back in the days. Whereas if you had one, you would be highly regarded. You could get a job almost anywhere. But today, that is flipped upside down. You're only considered a norm if you have a degree. So, since it is absolutely necessary or it is a norm to have a degree in today's day and age, the value that it provides must be quite significant, right? Any success influential on the internet preaching that a degree is not necessary for success. For example, Steve Jobs at the time of his passing was worth $7 to $10 billion. Now it's undoubtable that Steve Jobs was a very smart man, but do you know that Steve Jobs actually dropped out of college just 6 months in without telling his parents? According to Steve Jobs, quote, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I had no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was spending all the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was the best decision I ever made. That was from the founder of Apple. But Steve Jobs was not the only person that felt that way. Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, one of the largest technology corporations, dropped out of university. Elon Musk, in multiple interviews, have said that you don't need a degree to be successful. Well, now, if you're having a mental warfare, or if you're contemplating on whether university was the right decision for your future, I would say that it does help you in many ways because I'm still here in university and I have not dropped out yet. But there are many students out there that are still clueless on their interests or their ambitions. And I am not an exception as well. Are you 100% sure that you're going to be enjoying your job as an engineer, a software developer, or an accountant in the future? The answer is you wouldn't know. The only way to find that out is by trying out new things, by taking risks. So let's take an example of someone who actually made his investment in university to be somewhat meaningful. This man took a risk not knowing if he was going to succeed or fail. But as a university student, he knew that all he needed to invest was his time and his effort, and he had nothing much to lose. So who or what am I talking about here? Well, is none other than the multinational technology conglomerate that is worth $122 billion today, Facebook. Facebook was founded by a group of university students from Harvard in their dorm room. Now, Facebook is not the only example here. Bill Gates was in Harvard University when him and his best friend Paul Allen later then started Microsoft together. Steve Wozniak was in university when he met and befriended his friend Steve Jobs, where both of them would later revolutionize the tech industry with Apple. So there are two things that we can learn from all these people that I've mentioned here. The first thing is they're all extremely successful. And the second thing is they all dropped out of college. But obviously this is a joke, but there is a recurring theme that we can notice here. All of them were in university before they founded something astounding. But what does university have to do anything with it? Well, if you haven't already guessed it, it's networking. We would not be having the privilege of using an iPhone like we do now if Steve Jobs never met Steve Wozniak. We would not be having the privilege of connecting with people from other parts of the world if Mark Zuckerberg didn't receive help from his friends in university. So networking is one of the most powerful tools, and university is undoubtedly the best place to start building your connections. The connections you make today will tremendously help you out in the future. For example, and before that, the popular catchphrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So, for example, lecturers in university have way more information about the industry we're interested in, and all we have to do is connect with them. They can even notify us on any internship positions available. But apart from lecturers, let's not also forget our friends. You might not know the next Bill Gates or the next Elon Musk could be the person sitting next to you, so be nice to everyone. But apart from networking, university also teaches us on how to be independent. Most of our lives, we lived at home, we lived with our parents, and we were sheltered from the harsh and dark reality of life. We didn't have to worry about paying bills, we didn't have to worry about not having enough money, and we didn't have to worry about cooking or cleaning for most of the times. But the truth is, the day you leave home for the first time is the day you realize that you don't need your family to do everything for you. You would have learned how to save, budget, cook, clean, pay your bills, and so much more. And you will also have a lot of freedom, which comes with huge responsibilities. And if you break them, there are going to be consequences. But apart from all the benefits that you get from college, it also really depends on what you want to do with your life. Yes, there are billionaires on the internet preaching that you don't need a degree to be successful. But if your ambition is to become a doctor, then you need to go to medical school. You can't just perform surgery on some random person down the street. Or maybe you can, but you will end up in jail. And similarly, that goes for people that want to become a lawyer or pharmacist. But what about the rest? What about people like you or me? People that are not interested in becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or a pharmacist. Should we just beat ourselves up for making the wrong choice? I certainly had all these thoughts inside me for a long time, and I do know how you feel as well. But reminding yourself every morning that college or university is useless is only going to make it harder for you to reach the end. And that is why I feel like students in university should capitalize on all the opportunities that they get and become a better person as a whole. Now, unfortunately, students that come into university only care about one thing, well, it's the GPA. It's indoctrinated into them, and it's quite saddening because all they care about is their grades and their exams, and they forget everything else that university has to offer. Now, there are many things that we can actually get in university, such as networking possibilities, hands-on experience, and the in-depth theoretical knowledge. And apart from that, university also equips us with soft skills that are crucial to our future employers, such as leadership skills, communication skills, teamwork, and so much more. But the ultimatum, is it all worth it? Is it really worth $500,000 or maybe even more to get that piece of paper we all call degree? Well, it all depends on what you want to do and what you want to pursue in your life. But as an advice, just make sure that when you look back, you can say to yourself, I used all the opportunity that I had at university and made the best out of it. Thank you.